Are you sure the place you're about to step into is really abandoned? Or is it waiting, watching, hiding something you're not supposed to find? This is the story of Blackwood Asylum, a forgotten mental hospital that doesn't just haunt the town. It consumes it. There's a reason people avoid this place. Its shadow looms heavy over the forest, and its name is whispered only in hushed tones, if at all, because those who dare speak of it often disappear, just like the staff did, years ago. The history of Blackwood Asylum is shrouded in mystery. Built in 1932, it was supposed to be a sanctuary for the mentally ill. But it quickly became something much darker. Patients started vanishing. Reports of inhumane experiments surfaced. And then one night, the staff was gone. Every last one. But that's not even the scariest part. The asylum stayed open. Are you ready to uncover what happened? Because this is not just a story. It's a warning. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Once you know the truth, you'll never look at the world the same way again. It all starts with a group of explorers. They called themselves urban adventurers, thrill seekers, who prided themselves on sneaking into abandoned places and capturing the eerie beauty of decay. Blackwood was their ultimate challenge. The leader, Chris, was the one who proposed the idea. His YouTube channel, Ghost Tracers, had been losing views. He needed something big. Something to make people watch again. And Blackwood Asylum was perfect. No one's ever done it before, Chris said, his voice crackling with excitement, as he pitched the idea to the group. It's untouched. It'll be legendary. The team wasn't so sure. Jess, the skeptic, rolled her eyes. You mean untouched? Because it's illegal and dangerous? Yeah, great idea, Chris. But Liam, the tech guy, was intrigued. The place has been sealed off for decades. If we can get in and actually film something, it'll blow up. And then there was Sam. Quiet, cautious Sam. He wasn't sure why he agreed to go. Maybe it was peer pressure. Maybe it was the lure of adventure. Or maybe it was the unexplainable pull he felt toward the asylum, like it was calling to him. They chose a cold, moonless night for their expedition. Chris's excitement was infectious, and soon, even Jess was on board. The plan was simple: get in, explore, film, and get out. Easy, right? Wrong. The forest surrounding the asylum was dead silent as they approached. No birds, no insects, not even the rustle of leaves. It was as if the asylum had sucked the life out of everything around it. Creepy as hell, Jess muttered, pulling her jacket tighter. Chris, on the other hand, was practically bouncing with excitement. This is it. The adventure of a lifetime. Liam set up his camera gear, while Sam stood back, staring at the looming structure. The asylum. It felt alive. Like it was watching them. The building was massive, its once grand facade, now crumbling and overgrown with vines. The windows were shattered, and the front door hung ajar, as if inviting them in. Here we go, Chris said, stepping inside. The air changed, the moment they crossed the threshold. It was colder, heavier. The kind of cold that seeps into your bones, and makes you feel unwelcome. The entrance hall was vast and empty, the floor covered in a thick layer of dust. Their footsteps echoed, unnaturally loud in the silence. But it wasn't just the echo. There was something else. A faint whispering sound, just on the edge of hearing. "Did you hear that?" Sam asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hear what?" Chris said, shining his flashlight around. "It's probably just the wind." But Sam wasn't convinced. He'd heard something. Something that sounded like his name. The group moved deeper into the asylum, their flashlights casting long, flickering shadows on the walls. The peeling paint and broken furniture gave the place an eerie, abandoned beauty, but there was something else. Something wrong. They passed a row of rooms, each one identical. Small, with a single bed bolted to the floor, and bars on the windows. The walls were covered in scratches, as if someone had desperately tried to claw their way out. "This is messed up," Jess said, her voice tight. "Why are we even here?" "Because it's awesome," Chris said, grinning. "Imagine the views we're gonna get." But even Chris's bravado started to waver as they moved deeper into the asylum. The air grew colder, the whispering louder. And then they found the first sign that something was very, very wrong. It was a room, larger than the others, with a single chair in the center. On the walls were strange symbols, painted in a dark, rusty color. At least, they hoped it was paint. Liam set up his camera, but as soon as he turned it on, the screen went static. "What the?" he muttered, fiddling with the controls. "This doesn't make sense. It was working fine a minute ago." "Maybe it's the building," Chris said, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. Jess shivered. "I don't like this. Can we just go?" "Not yet," Chris said, pulling out his phone to film. But his phone wouldn't turn on. "What is going on?" Liam said, panic creeping into his voice. And then they heard it. A low, guttural growl. It came from the hallway behind them. They spun around, flashlights darting, but there was nothing there. "Let's go," Sam said, his voice trembling. "Now?" Chris hesitated, but the look in Sam's eyes made him nod. "All right. Let's get out of here." But as they retraced their steps, the hallway seemed different. What had been a straight path to the entrance, now twisted and turned, leading them deeper into the asylum. "This isn't right," Jess said, her voice rising. "We came this way. I'm sure of it." "Just keep moving," Chris said, though he sounded more like he was trying to convince himself. And then they saw it. A figure. Standing at the end of the hallway. Tall, with its head cocked at an unnatural angle. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the beam of their flashlights. "Run," Sam whispered. And they did. They ran blindly, the creature's footsteps echoing behind them. But no matter how fast they ran, it was always there, just out of sight. Finally, they burst into a room, and slammed the door shut. The room was empty, except for a single table. On the table was a notebook, open to a page filled with scrawled writing. The words made their blood run cold. "You're not supposed to be here. Leave. While you still can." But when they tried the door, it wouldn't open. And that was just the beginning. Suddenly, the lights flickered, even though there shouldn't have been any power. A low hum filled the room, growing louder by the second. The walls seemed to tremble, and then, the writing in the notebook started to change. The words began to rewrite themselves, the ink bleeding across the page like veins. A new message appeared. "It's too late." Sam stepped back, his breathing shallow. This can't be real. This isn't happening. Stay calm, Chris said, though his voice was anything but steady. We just need to find another way out. Jess pointed to a vent in the corner of the room. What about that? Maybe we can crawl through it. Without waiting for a response, Liam climbed onto the table and pried the vent cover off. The metal groaned loudly, the sound echoing like a scream. As Liam peered inside, his flashlight flickered, and for a moment, his face froze in terror. There's something in there. What do you mean? Chris asked, stepping closer. But before Liam could answer, a hand, thin, pale, and impossibly long, reached out from the darkness and grabbed him. Liam screamed as he was yanked into the vent, his flashlight clattering to the floor. The group froze in horror, unable to process what they'd just seen. Liam! Jess shouted, rushing to the vent. But it was too late. He was gone. The hum in the room grew louder, more distorted, and the walls began to ooze a dark, viscous liquid. The air smelled of rot and decay, making it hard to breathe. Chris grabbed Jess's arm, pulling her back. We need to move. Now. They ran out of the room, leaving the notebook and the vent behind. But the asylum seemed to be alive, its halls shifting and changing, trapping them in an endless maze. Where do we go? Jess cried, tears streaming down her face. We just keep moving, Chris said, though his confidence was gone. He was as scared as the rest of them. As they turned a corner, they came face to face with the creature again. Its form was clearer now, its skin gray and mottled, its eyes empty voids. It tilted its head, as if studying them. And then it spoke. You don't belong here. Its voice was a chorus of whispers, overlapping and grating, like nails on a chalkboard. The sound made their ears ache, and their vision blur. Run! Sam shouted, and they bolted in the opposite direction. But the creature didn't chase them. It simply watched, its head tilting further and further, until it was almost upside down. The group found themselves in what appeared to be an operating room. Rusted surgical tools were scattered across the floor, and a decayed hospital bed sat in the center, its restraint still fastened. On the walls were more of those strange symbols, glowing faintly in the darkness. What is this place? Jess whispered, her voice trembling. It's where they did the experiments, Sam said, his tone hollow. This is where it all went wrong. How do you know that? Chris asked, staring at him. Sam didn't answer. He couldn't. Because the truth was, he didn't know how he knew. He just did. Before they could say anything else, the room started to shake. The symbols on the walls pulsed with light, and the bed in the center of the room began to move, as if something invisible was thrashing against the restraints. We have to get out of here. Jess screamed. But the door slammed shut, trapping them inside. Hours felt like days. The group tried everything to escape, but the asylum wouldn't let them go. It was alive, feeding off their fear, twisting reality around them. One by one, they began to lose hope. Jess stopped speaking, her eyes vacant. Chris's bravado turned to desperation, and Sam started hearing the whispers again. But the whispers weren't just voices anymore. They were memories. Images of the asylum's past flashed before his eyes, patients screaming, doctors laughing, shadows moving in the corners. And then he saw it. The truth. Blackwood Asylum wasn't just a building. It was a trap. A prison for something ancient and evil, something that had been awakened the night the staff disappeared. And now, it wanted them. Sam snapped back to reality, his heart pounding. He looked at Chris and Jess, their faces pale and terrified. "I know how to stop this," he said, his voice shaking. "But we have to do it together." "What are you talking about?" Chris asked, his eyes wide. Sam pointed to the symbols on the walls. "These. They're binding it? But they're also keeping us here. We have to destroy them." "Are you insane?" Jess said, her voice breaking. "What if it makes things worse?" "It can't get worse," Sam said. "Trust me." Reluctantly, they agreed. Using whatever they could find, they began to scrape and smash the symbols. The walls trembled violently, and the whispers turned into screams. As the last symbol was destroyed, the asylum let out a deafening roar. The walls cracked, and a blinding light filled the room. When the light faded, they were outside. The asylum was gone, replaced by an empty field. But they weren't the same. They never spoke of what happened that night. But they knew. The asylum wasn't truly gone. It was just waiting. And someday, it would call again. Like, share and subscribe for more stories like this. If you can handle it.